The following segment is sponsored by Daniel A. White and Associates. It does not necessarily reflect the views of WDEL or Forever Media. Rick Jensen on 1150 AM, 1017 FM, WDEL.
All right, so you are planning for retirement, and you got to. Even if you're 28 years old, you got to be planning for retirement. The Secure Act 2.0. We've talked about this before with Dan White, Dan Simon, and all the folks there at Dan White and Associates, financial planners who specialize in retirement income. So Secure Act 2.0, it's got a whole bunch of catch-up contributions if you're age 60 to 63, and it really changes the rules of retirement planning. Dan Simon's on the phone to talk about this and help you through it. Hey, Dan, thanks for being on. How are you, buddy?
Rick, how are you?
I'm well, sir. Yeah, so Secure Act 2.0. You want to help us out with some of this?
1.0, 2.0, I'm sure we'll have 3.0 at some point. Just wanted to talk about some of the effective dates that went into action as of December 29th, 2022. So there were a lot of changes with Secure Act 2.0. The big thing initially was they raised the required minimum distribution age to 73. So that went into effect this year, 2023. And then going out to 2033, it's going to be raised to 75 for those born 1960 or later, which is a pretty big deal. But that's 10 years down the road. So that was probably the initial big change with 2.0 was changing the RMD age. A couple other things they did was, actually this is a real big deal, they reduced the penalty for missed required minimum distributions.
Nice.
So in the past, it used to be a 50% penalty, which is a rather significant number of the amount that you were required to pull out of an IRA or qualified retirement account. But they cut that back to 25% and even reduced it to 10% if it's corrected in a timely matter, timely in parentheses. So I guess that's
timely
out to debate at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of vague.
A little vague, a lot of vagueness here.
Yeah.
This was kind of retroactive, but 10% penalty exception, so withdrawing money prior to 59 and a half from retirement plans or IRAs of up to $22,000 if you were impacted by what they call a federally declared disaster. So that was retroactive to last year. So if something happened last year and you were impacted, you can take advantage of that. What else do we got going on? So age 50 exception, they included private sector firefighters as well as state and local government corrections officers. So if they wanted to pull money out prior to 50, if they're retired prior to 50, they're not going to be hit with penalties there. They also put in a clause for terminal illness. So that goes into effect this year. So if someone's deemed terminally ill prior to age 59 and a half, there's no maximum. They can pull money out of those accounts if they want there.
Now, of course, you're going to have tax responsibilities anyway, right? No matter what?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the whole kind of the backside of this is, and they're really pushing the Roths too, right? So they're increasing the attractiveness of the Roth IRA by including that inside of qualified plans. And, as we know, I mean, the government's carrying, $31-32 trillion in debt, depending upon which day we look at it. Government's trying to generate as much revenue here as possible on the tax side. So,
that makes sense, Dan, because on the Roth, you pay taxes on that income before you put it into the retirement plan for your tax-preferred distributions when you retire. Because when you retire, you don't have to pay taxes on that money because you already did pay taxes on it. So, yeah, we're $32 trillion in debt. Government wants money now. They say, hey, go for the Roth and give us the tax money now. Is that about right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, by allowing people to access these accounts designated for quote-unquote retirement income, it's potentially putting people at a bad position going forward down the road. By being able to access those accounts, we always encourage people to have that emergency fund, that rainy day fund that's set aside, that's post-tax money that you can access whenever you want, because impeding the growth of those retirement accounts is going to have an impact down the road as to, how much you can sustainably withdraw from the account and how long it's going to last.
It's a tough decision. Do I want to have a regular standard IRA or a Roth IRA? If you presume, and you probably are, going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire, then you probably want to pay taxes on that money as opposed to being in the higher tax bracket now. So the government's not really doing any favors here in doing this.
That's the thought process, but the concern is, 10, 15 years from now, we don't know where taxes are going to be.
That's true, too.
I haven't met too many people that think they're going to be lower from a tax bracket standpoint. So if you can get money into the Roth, if you can take advantage of the Roth, I think usually it pays dividends down the road.
It does make sense. At least you know what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. Let's see. Dan White presents his program On the Money every Sunday morning here at 7 o'clock. Do you know what Dan's going to be talking about today? Or this week, rather?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but I'm sure it will be geared towards either the economy, taxes, or retirement planning.
That's usually, those are his strong suits right there. They really are. He's very good at that. On the Money, 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Dan Simon with Dan White and Associates. So give him a call at 888-690-8820 and say, you know what, maybe we ought to talk about this because these are pretty smart guys. As they say with the PGA golf, these guys are good. All right. Thanks, Dan. Take care, buddy.
My pleasure. Stay well, Rick.
All right. Dan's in the Middletown office, and you can get him at 888-690-8820.